I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is your Omega Minute. Brother James Leonard Farmer Jr. emerged as a titan of civil rights, cutting his teeth as one of the great debaters at Wiley College under the mentorship of Brother Melvin B. Tolson, Beta Chapter 1920. It was at the same school that Brother Farmer was initiated into the Omega Psi Phi fraternity through Theta Chapter in 1936 at the age of 16. In the 1940s, alongside of Brother Bayard Rustin, Brother Farmer co-founded the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, an organization that would become a cornerstone in a fight against racial discrimination through its adherence to nonviolent direct action, inspired by the principles of Mahatma Gandhi. As the national director of CORE, Brother Farmer would lead one of the most impactful demonstrations of the movement known as the Freedom Rides. But it didn't come without sacrifice. The first attempt came in 1947 when members of CORE decided to test the Supreme Court ruling that segregation of passengers crossing state lines represented an undue burden on interstate commerce, and that state laws demanding segregation of passengers on interstate motor carriers would be unconstitutional. The Executive Committee of CORE and the Racial Industrial Committee of the Fellowship of Reconciliation decided they should jointly sponsor a journey of reconciliation through the Upper South in order to determine the extent to which bus and train companies were recognizing the court's decision and test nonviolent tactics against Jim Crow laws. These trips took place between April 9th and 23rd as a group of interracial men traveled to 15 cities in North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. The travelers consisted of 8 black men and 8 white men in a group that drew from college students, social workers, members of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, musicians, CORE, ministers, scientists, science workers of Defense League, and the Chicago Council Against Racial and Religious Discrimination. Several arrests were made and fines were given after trials. All convictions were appealed. The lack of confrontation, however, resulted in little media attention and failed to recognize CORE's goals for the rides. 14 years later, in a new national context of sit-ins, boycotts, and the emergence of organizations like the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC for short, the rides were reignited. This time known as the Freedom Rides, buses loaded in Washington, D.C., headed toward New Orleans with the hopes of not only integrating interstates, but ending Jim Crow laws and bus terminals. By the time the Freedom Rides reached the Deep South, they were met with intense violence. Buses were firebombed. Freedom Riders were beaten, at times severely beaten. The violence that erupted in response captured national attention. Blacks across the nation joined the civil rights struggle, as did whites in America and abroad. Within months, Attorney General Robert Kennedy issued an order banning segregation in interstate travel, followed by the Interstate Congress Commission ruling that segregation on interstate buses and facilities was illegal. Brother Farmer and CORE had pioneered tactics that eventually dismantled segregation in the South. Brother Farmer described the Freedom Rides as his proudest achievement, a sentiment that reflects the profound impact of these actions on the course of American history. Under his leadership, CORE continued to be a formidable force in the civil rights struggle, engaging in voter registration drives and various other initiatives furthered the cause of equality. The story of Brother Farmer and countless other Omega men who stood on the front lines of the civil rights movement are not just chapters in the fraternity's history, they are integrated into the narrative of America's journey towards justice and equality. Their courage, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to the fight for civil rights continues to inspire us and live up to the ideals of our beloved fraternity. For a deeper dive of these remarkable Omega men and their impact on our nation, I encourage you to delve into the new Omega Psi Phi history book, With Faith in God and Heart and Mind, a history of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity.